That's about 500,000 people in Tel Aviv protesting the Netanyahu regime's atrocities being committed in Gaza. That's what's happening right now in Israel, which you're not seeing covered on corporate news. Donald Trump is in a panic this morning as it is very clear that he is just making things dramatically worse across the world. This from Sky News in the UK. We are further away from peace now than we were 2 years ago. Donald Trump's disastrous meeting in Alaska combined with his disastrous meeting with European leaders, where Donald Trump took a break during the meeting to take a phone call from Vladimir Putin. And this morning, Donald Trump said that he didn't want to be disrespectful to Vladimir Putin. That's why he stepped out of the room to do the call away from European leaders who Donald Trump says, you know, Putin doesn't really like these European leaders. So I didn't want to disrespect Putin, of course. Well, Donald Trump this morning gave a disastrous interview with state regime media known as Fox, where Donald Trump started saying, you know, I'm very low on the totem pole to go to heaven. I really want to go to heaven, and that's why I'm trying to do a deal. Then he talks about Pakistan and India and saying that he did a peace deal there, saying, you know, I'm very low on the totem pole to go to heaven. I really want to go to heaven, and that's why I'm trying to do a deal. Then he talks about Pakistan and India and saying that he did a peace deal there, and that's going to help him get to heaven. This is what he's thinking about. What are you even talking about? We realize how deranged this sounds, but no, Fox doesn't call him out for it. But here Donald Trump talks about he wants to make deals to help him go to heaven because he's low on the totem pole. Maybe you're low on the totem pole because of you and Epstein's connections also, and the fact that you have been found liable for sexual assault, and the fact that you're a convicted felon, and the fact that you're an overall awful human being. But anyway, here's what he said here. Play this clip.
But, if I can save 7,000 people a week from being killed, I think that's I want to try and get to heaven if possible. I'm hearing I'm not doing well. I hear I'm really at the bottom of the totem pole. But if I can get to heaven, this will be one of the reasons. Well, I think I saved a lot of lives with India, Pakistan. They were going at it. The planes were being shot down. That was going to be maybe a nuclear war if I let that go. And I did that through trade. I was negotiating with both of them. I said,
Now, this was from that disastrous interview this morning where Donald Trump talked about leaving the European leaders to take a call from Putin because he didn't want to be disrespectful to Putin. Here, play this clip.
Yesterday, when you decided to call Vladimir Putin, what was the reaction among the other people in the room, and what was President Putin's reaction to being brought into a phone call in the middle of your meeting?
Well, I think they expected it. I didn't do it in front of them. I thought that would be disrespectful to President Putin. I wouldn't do that because they have not had the warmest relations. And actually,
And then Donald Trump starts attacking the European leaders and basically saying, well, they can never have a conversation with Putin, and Putin doesn't really like them that much, but Putin likes me. You realize that's pretty much a cell phone that you say Putin likes you. Yes. I don't think that Vladimir Putin is getting on the phone with European leaders to talk to them about how they should change their elections and cancel mail and voting like he talked to you about. And then you said you're going to do an executive order after speaking with Vladimir Putin to cancel mail and voting. Here, play this clip.
President Putin wouldn't talk to the people from Europe. I mean, that was part of the problem. They had
stepped out of the Oval Office to make the call?
They had no communication with the White House for years as people died. Years with Biden and his people. No communication. Putin told me. Years. It was years that he didn't speak to anybody from the White House. And it was a long time that he didn't speak to anybody from Europe. No, it's a fractured relationship. And when I came in, I always had, despite the Russia hoax, which truly was a very dangerous thing for our country, but despite that, I maintained a very good relationship. I mean, you saw that when he got off his plane, I got off my plane. There's a warmth there that you can't, there's a decent feeling. And it's a good thing, not a bad thing. People would say, oh, that's such a terrible thing. It's not a terrible thing. You know what? We've got the most nuclear weapons in the world and the most powerful. He's got second.
So can you describe for us how that happened? Did you just announce that you were going to go into the other room to make the phone call, and then you got up and left and then came back?
I think they sort of knew I was, at the end of the meeting, I was going to call President Putin, and President Putin expected it. And he was there. Now, by the time I called him, it was 1 o'clock in the morning in Russia. Russia's a big place. They have 11 time zones, I believe, 9 or 11, but I think it's 11.
But
think
Mr.
of it,
President,
11 time zones. That's a lot of time zones. So it was late. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, but he picked it up very happily. He's Sure, he works very hard, like we all do.
And then Donald Trump blames Ukraine for getting invaded. He goes, "It's not a war that should have been started. Look, Russia's 10 times bigger than them. Why did Ukraine let this war start?" Here, play this clip.
Mr. President, did y'all discuss any land swaps yesterday? Because we've talked a lot about the Donbass region. And what was the feeling in the room? What did the other leaders say about this?
Well, they understand. Look, everybody can play cute and this and that, but, Ukraine's going to get their life back. They're going to stop having people killed all over the place, and they're going to get a lot of land. But this was a war, and Russia is a powerful military nation, whether people like it or not. It's a powerful nation. It's a much bigger nation. It's not a war that should have been started. You don't do that. You don't take on a nation that's 10 times your size. And, military experts look, if it wasn't for the greatest military equipment, we make the greatest military equipment in the world, and we gave them, whatever. They took probably a lot of money, too. But they had tremendous, they had the Patriot missile, which is the best in the world. All the equipment, we make the best equipment in the world by far. Everyone else is like nothing. So we gave them a lot of equipment. Now, with that said, the Ukrainian soldiers were brave as hell because they're fighting a force that's much, much bigger and, in theory, much more powerful. And, it's not like they've stopped. I assume you've all seen the map. A big chunk of territory is taken, and that territory has been taken. Now, they're talking about Donbass, but Donbass right now, as you know, is 79% owned and controlled by Russia. So they understand what that means.
But, Mr. President, what did the other leaders tell you?
Then, in a bizarre moment, Donald Trump starts talking about the fact that Ninsley Hehart, the morning host, is in a relationship with Sean Hannity, and then Donald Trump talks about her dating Sean Hannity. I think she's engaged to Hannity now. But this is what they talk about here. Play this clip.
Hannity, he might take a very lovely young lady that he knows very, very well to dinner in Washington, and they don't have to. She's sitting right next to you, by the way.
That's right.
But
Mr. President,
I don't want to get him in trouble, so I better explain exactly. We don't want any secrets here. But
that's exactly
he's
right.
got. That's the greatest relationship. I hope I'm not breaking any news. This could be the biggest. Hey, this could be the most important thing I said. But let me tell you, those are two great, Ainsley and Sean, great people. And when they go out to dinner, I don't want to see them get mugged. Now they can go out, they can hold hands, they can walk down the street. They're both superstars. I want to know who makes more money, because she's got to be making a lot.
Mr. President, we're so happy for them. But on a serious note, Mr. President, when you have those world leaders, because this is the topic of conversation for the whole world.
And then, as part of the relentless propaganda campaign by state regime media known as Fox, they acted like he did a deal. And so they're like, so with all of the great things that you've done already, H, how can you ensure that Putin doesn't inch closer to Ukraine after your presidency? Do we need Congress to pass Article 5 like guarantees? What are you talking? Donald Trump's made things 100 times worse in Ukraine. Beyond the amount of times that we've seen attacks take place on Ukraine have increased significantly under Donald Trump. Here, let's watch this clip. Let's play it.
What happens after your presidency? How can we ensure that this conflict, that Putin doesn't inch in closer or more into the Ukraine territory? Is there anything that we can do? Can our congressmen and women pass any laws that would involve Article 5? How would that be handled? All
you can do is make sure you get a good president, not one of these wackos like in California that runs the worst state anybody's seen, or that guy in Illinois who his family threw him out of the business because he was no good. Now he's running Illinois and he wants to run for president. He's got zero chance. Maybe Newsom has a little bit of a chance. I don't know, but it's hard to believe because his record's bad. But all you can do is hope you don't get that as president. We have a great bench, as you know that. We have great talent. And J.D. and Marco and Scott Bessen's been great, and Howard. They're all, we have such superstars.
Then Donald Trump denigrates NATO in this bizarre morning interview with Fox. Play this clip.
I don't think it's going to be a problem. I think if a deal is made, famous last words, right? But I think if a deal is made, I think Russia's had it. They've all had it. And for a very extended period of time, I don't think there'll be a problem. But there'll be some form of security. It can't be NATO because that's just not something that would ever happen. They couldn't do that. So who would want that? If you were Russia, who would want to have your your enemy, your opponent, sitting on your line. You don't do that. So it was always thought that Ukraine was sort of a buffer between Russia and the rest of Europe. And it was a big, wide buffer. Everything worked out well until Biden got involved. You know, when Biden gave...
I don't think it's going to be a problem. I think if a deal is made, famous last words, right? But I think if a deal is made, I think Russia's had it. They've all had it. And for a very extended period of time, I don't think there'll be a problem, but there'll be some form of security. It can't be NATO, because that's just not something that would ever happen. They couldn't do that. Who would want that? I mean, if you were Russia, who would want to have your enemy, your opponent sitting on your line? You don't do that. So it was always thought that Ukraine was a sort of a buffer between Russia and the rest of Europe. And it was a big, wide buffer. Everything worked out well until Biden got involved. And while he's doing this interview with Fox, he starts posting on social media, "Stupid and ugly windmills are killing New Jersey. Energy prices up 28% this year and not enough electricity to take care of state. Stop the windmills. Stop the windmills." This is what we're saying here. And then I think even Fox realizes just how deranged this interview is with Donald Trump, and they basically hustle him off the air here. Play this clip.
People in government.
Well, President Trump, we want to thank you so much for joining us this morning. We know that you have lots of other wars around the world that you need to end, and that's more important than anything. So we appreciate you joining us this morning.
No, thank you very
Thank
much,
you, Mr.
Charlie.
President.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Ainsley, thank you. I hope I didn't get you in trouble with John. But no,
We
it's just
appreciate
a great
your
couple.
support.
I'll
Thank
say
you.
it. I like this. It's a great couple. We love them. Have a
Thank
good
you,
time,
Mr.
everybody.
President.
Congratulations
Thank
for
you.
yesterday.
sir.
Thank you, Mr. Trump.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all very much.
The
A lot of
45th
fun.
and 47th.
I saw this article on that it came out. It came out last month, but it's worth mentioning right now from Foreign Policy. When the thread is inside the White House, what CIA insiders make of MAGA moles and toadies now in charge of the U.S. national security. And it just goes to talk about how Donald Trump is trying to destroy the CIA apparatus from within. Again, another thing that helps Putin's objectives. And it talks about how a lot of the people who were promoted to the top positions at the CIA before Donald Trump, like a guy named Tom Sylvester, were promoted on the basis also if they found the Russian war plans and were able to give it to Ukraine to help stop a Putin from taking over Kiev in 3 days, as Putin said that he was going to do. Just giving you some more foreign policy news, and check back in about 90 minutes. I did an interview with Jake Sullivan, National Security Advisor. Make sure you watch that. I asked him a lot of questions about India, Japan, what's going on internationally. But India's Prime Minister Modi has now been saying India-China relations have made steady progress as the US has attacked India, has mocked India. India is moving on and finding its alliance in China right now. We're seeing that across the world. Meanwhile, and Donald Trump saying that he was going to bring these factories here to the United States. Remember how he said he was going to bring iPhone factories to the United States? Well, Apple expands its iPhone production in India for use-bound new models. Remember Tim Cook showed up with a gold bar? He bribed Trump with a gold bar, and then now they're building factories in India, which is ultimately still going to benefit China as India's relationship with China strengthening and weakening with the United States. Donald Trump also stunned the logistics industry by widening his steel and aluminum tariffs to include more than 400 consumer items that contain the metals such as motorcycles and tableware. Trump widens metal tariffs to target baby gear and motorcycles, making things more expensive for you all. Things I still haven't seen from Donald Trump. Ending Russia's war on Ukraine. Written documentation of trade deals with Vietnam, Japan, or the UK. Lawsuits against Jay Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve. Trump said he was filing that lawsuit. End of inflation. He's made things worse there. Replacement of Obamacare. Has taken away healthcare from 17 million Americans. And finally, Bloomberg's reporting fears of a bubble. An AI tech bubble are mounting as tech stocks follow a pattern that is surprisingly similar to the dot bubble of the late 1990s. And it should be noted as well that if you just look at Americans' views about Donald Trump's trade war against the world, only 31% of Americans view tariffs as favorable. I think it's an important data point as well for all of you. Anyway, hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers. Thank you for watching.